Represento las calles de mi tierra. Mi bandera, ay, mi bandera. Puerto Rico y todos los latinos. Sonamos donde quiera.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Sports Jedi Network here, Heal the Ring podcast, Latino Wrestling Voices. The host, PX Sports Jedi Kev. I'm going to break down a little NXT. I just had to make a video on the December 16th NXT, where a lot of controversy, especially the women's North American title with Blake Monroe versus Thea Hail. I wanted to give you my thoughts, my opinion, a little breakdown on that, what I think might have happened from a fan doing a watch-along's point of view. Don't forget, hit like, subscribe, and share. Our platform here, Sports Jedi Network. You can follow us on X, on Sports Jedi Media, of course. We really appreciate everyone joining us. And again, thank you for the video. Again, you could follow us, help us continue to grow. Follow us on our Discord as well. There's the link there, and it will be in the video description. Follow our Discord. Let's get the conversation going. Like I said, follow us on X and all different platforms. NXT. The opening contest, you have Blake Monroe versus Thea Hail matchup there, where when we were doing the watch along and I was watching that matchup on Tuesday night, I was telling my chat, I could give Thea Hail believe I said 10% chance of possibly winning this title. NXT wouldn't pass NXT to put a shock in on to finish the year, especially where, that last night. And then the next following day, they were going to do 2 weeks of taping on Wednesday, the 17th, at the Performance Center for the following Tuesday and the before Christmas vacation and the New Year. Following Tuesday before the New Year, they were going to be taped. That's something that they do. Their next live telecast for NXT will be New Year's Evil. It's January 7th, if I'm not mistaken, that Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the year. So I said, you know what? NXT, wouldn't surprise me if they do a title change here to have people speaking and talking about NXT to close out the year. And I gave it a 10% chance. No way in the world I'm going to sit here and tell you that, yeah, I saw that coming. No. But was I completely shocked? Not to a degree, though, just the ending of the match. Pretty good matchup between the two ladies. I think the sequence that got Blake Monroe was that Thea Hail, when she did the roll onto the stomach, might have knocked the wind out of Blake Monroe. Then she transitioned into that backdrop, coffin drop, and finally knocked the air out of Blake Monroe, where either she was caught gasping for air or just totally lost the momentarily thought of the referee's 3 count. You're gasping for air, you have your wind knocked out. The referee's counting, and his count was very audible, and you could hear the vibrations on the mat with the 1-2. She got her arm raised up about a couple seconds after that referee's arm hit the 3 on the apron. Wasn't even convincing enough to raise the shoulder. It was just lifting your arm up. You have to lift the shoulder up. And here's where the things got a little messy. I think when the Performance Center played Blake Monroe's music and the referee kept going and went to get the title to give it to Thea Hail, that's where the confusion. On optics and television-wise, it didn't look so crisp. It didn't look so clear. And I'm pretty sure everyone at the Performance Center might have been a little bit confused as well. Nevertheless, Thea Hail becomes your Women's North American Championship. Now, NXT has an opportunity here to build on Thea Hail. Thea Hail, I believe she's 21 years old. She's been in Performance Center now for 3 years. She was there at the raw age of 18 years old legally. We seen her flounder with the Chase You gimmick. Thea Hail in ring is very good, very solid professional wrestler who could wrestle, who could work well. It's her character gimmick. The Andre Chase over the top goofball could go a certain way with the comedy. Yes. Now with Joe Henry, we believe it kind of was cute, but still in that comedic role. I don't know if this is something that's going to snap with Thea Hail, where it's going to elevate her and build her character development, because I don't know how long this title reign is going to go when it comes to a North American title. If they're going to course correct and say, no, we have a game plan that we had a storyline built in and we have to change it now because of the mistakes, the oops, or do they catch a blessing in disguise? Time will tell when it comes to WWE creative and the writing team there at the Performance Center where they go with the storyline. It was interesting to see which way they were going. But here's the one thing I have a little bit of a connect or a little bit issue with. You get the know-it-alls, and yes, they do know, and I'm not trying to throw any shade or any discord or any negativity towards the Sean Ross Saps the Fightful Select. WWE is going to change their policy. Reports out there that what talent has to stay throughout the whole night of the Performance Center for the whole taping for the shows. Listen, I live in Orlando, Florida. I've gone for almost 2 years to the Performance Center, plenty of times, for about every Tuesday, religiously 2 years straight with my wife. All the time, been on that bus in Full Sail, got on that bus, been in there, the crowd. A lot of 95% or even more than that of those performers do not leave early. They leave as soon as the shows ends, 10:10, 10:05 at sometimes. And sometimes we don't even leave the buses from the Performance Center on about 10:15, 10:20, because a lot of times the talent are allowed to leave the building first, and it's one way in, one way out in the Performance Center street. It's a two-way street, but it's one way in, one way out to go onto Forsyth, and the buses are held still while people file in to get on the bus, and you see the talent leaving. Why? Because we see them when they leave by us. Some of them honk horn and say hello and greet us since we see them, and people get their pop arousement. Some of them, many times I've seen Carmelo Hayes going home, walking through us and taking a couple pictures and getting in the car and leaving. My point is, a lot of the talents don't leave early. So that nonsense there, either you're engaged in farming, you don't really know, or someone's feeding you something just for people to see that you have insights. We know you have insights, but don't start fabricating stories that they leave early and that they have to change the policy because they left. Because case in point, she cut a promo, Thea Hail and Blake Monroe, later in that evening, a couple segments about that loss. So they did a good job on the fly. If this was a mistake for Thea to win the title, Blake wants her title back. And I said this on the live stream. I don't think Blake Monroe needs to stay in NXT. I don't think there's nothing for her. The women's world title picture, okay. I think SmackDown moving to 3 hours as of January 2nd could use the extra women power into that Friday nights, program with Julia, Blake Monroe, even Jordan Grace should be getting the tap on her shoulder to be elevated to SmackDown, and a few other women. But it's up to SmackDown now to start using them. Just because they need them and you bring them up, and they're not featured on television and not given the opportunity, that's also a disservice as well. So it's a hand-in-hand situation. We could go around in circles arguing about that when it comes to these ladies, or creative and hand-in-hand. But we're talking about this particular matchup between Thea Hail and Blake Monroe. Does Blake Monroe, and we saw Jordan Grace interject herself as well, part of that promo where she's like, I guess you got it figured out. Because, Jordan Grace is questioning herself, and doubting her skill set in NXT, seeing younger, inexperienced ladies getting brought up and elevated or working and figuring it out how the NXT system works, winning titles. And while she's still kind of like stuck in neutral from TNA into NXT, she's a TNA, 3-time TNA knockout champion. She's the juggernaut, not quite in NXT. She hasn't been a juggernaut. She's been like, lost in the big pond. She was the big fish in a smaller pond. Now she feels like a small fish in a huge pond, and she's trying to doubt herself, see where she's going to swim and what's her territory for Jordan Grace. I don't know where that leads into, that whole triangle there with Thea Hail. Personally, I said it's a good thing because it also free up other ladies like a Kaylee Armstrong, if you're not going to bring her into the main roster, to allow her to be part of that North American title scene. Even Tatum Paxley, would like to see Tatum evolve. Get these other ladies that have been in the system, in the NXT system, that North American title shine where it's not logjam. With Lola Vice, Jada Parker, we have a nice names there. It gets some fresh faces. Carly Bright, Ren, we seen Ren did a hell of a job there teaming up with Kendall Gray later on against Fatal Influence. I would love to see them move up those two ladies, Jordan Grace along with Blake Monroe. You don't have to bring up a lot of people up immediately. You don't want to deplete NXT either, but they have a lot of strong women in the Evolved system, the LFG system as well. You've got, you just got Danny, who Skylar, where they changed her name from LFG into there as well. So there is a plethora of talented women in NXT. Would like to see Thea Hail that upheld. Let her, maybe they find the next JC Jane here. JC Jane, everybody thought it was a mistake. I thought Stephanie Vicaire got her bell rung when JC Jane first got the title. I thought JC might have left a live round, and Stephanie Vicaire lost count for 3 seconds. You could lose count; it only takes 3 seconds. You don't move the shoulders. Referee, good job on the referee. Everybody wants to put the heat on the poor referee. The referee did his job. He counted. That's it. It's up to the talent to stick with the situation, or what they call the script, and I can't blame that situation there. It's a misfortune, but you know what? Maybe out of misfortune, something greater might come off for Thea Hail. Her opportunity. All you need is that opportunity, and you know what? It shined upon Thea Hail. Hopefully, they could pick up gold out of a misfortune for NXT going forward. Let's hope that goes there. I can't wait to see where that goes there. The culling. We saw backstage with the culling. It seems like Tatum Paxley's taking out members at a time with her psychotic movement. They took her to that point where she's totally lost it. She's going to get her conupums, her revenge on the culling. Nico Vice missing in action, although Tatum, Izzy says, I think I know where she did with Nico Vice. We'll see where that goes. I've said this time and time. I know they just signed with TNA and they're not going to do that. Would have been a great opportunity, but then it would have been just for a feud. And then what? It would have been a nice time for the Righteous to join Tatum Paxley if they would have brought him into NXT and they could have had a program there. But then where did they go with them after they take on the culling? And, they tried it. Remember, they tried it with Schism, trying that dark cult stuff. It didn't kind of work with the Grizzly Young Veterans. It did a little bit, and then it just didn't went anywhere after that turn feud. I think that might have happened with the Righteous. I think the Righteous being in TNA is a better move, a better avenue for them in tag team with there. So we'll see what happens with Tatum Paxley going forward. Maybe Tatum, but they're going to establish him on his own, like a Shyler Hill type of Looney Tune on there. But I don't know if they'll go that route. Maybe I wonder if she has any male help to take out a Nico Vance, but maybe she's just that devious, a bad girl, wicked, where she takes out the calling individual, and then it's going to lead to her and Izzy Dane. Watch out. Here's one that I like, this in-ring. We got an in-ring with your North American champion and your one half of the mixed tag team champion in All Legal, Ethan Page, demanding the attack he suffered last week. But out comes your TNA international champion interrupts alongside with Adriana Grace. You see the international champion on NXT TV on CW. That's why the partnership works, ladies and gentlemen. People that says, I don't want TNA wrestlers winning an NXT title. Well, guess what? You got to see your international title for TNA across the CW on NXT platform. You're getting exposure to TNA. TNA, what a week, what a month for TNA has been to close out 2026. Yes, we had that hiccup with Mike Santana in November with them. The way he off of TV for a month, comes back, drops the title the way he did. Then we had that mishap in Orlando with that fan that claimed that he was not recording, not spoiling, and that mess up PR-wise. But then they recovered with a television deal, the great crowd in El Paso, the toy drive, the food drive in El Paso for TNA, announcing the television deal. Now seeing Leon Slater being tapped by the greatest of all time in John Cena on a Saturday night's main event being featured. Seeing the X Division champion, the title on the WWE platform, not the NXT, the big times on part of John Cena's retirement, letting know who's Leon Slater to the world, that he wrestles for TNA, who's going to be on AMC on January 15th. And now, and we're even going to touch that, just Stacks winning the international title. And then we're going to see what happens later in the evening for TNA. I thought TNA, Sports Illustrated supposedly said that AEW is the best promotion of the year. I think TNA personally he's the best promotion of the year. They had the best year, the best promotion of 2025 has been TNA Wrestling, in my opinion. But we're sticking to NXT because, but you know what? We can't help it to talk about them because they're cross promoting. Where Stacks teases they will love a opportunity at those mixed tag team titles for her and Chelsea, for him and her and Adriana Grace, and an opportunity there. I like that, but we get interrupted by a former NXT, a former TNA world champion, X Division world champion, the one and only Moose. So Moose comes out and personally wants to challenge Ethan for a match on December 30th. So that's going to happen in 2 weeks, the last Tuesday of the year. Moose versus All Legal Ethan Page for that North American title. I love it because I've been screaming to the top of the heavens, when are we going to get a TNA wrestler challenge for a singles NXT title and capture it? We've seen already the TNA world title go to Trick Williams, the Knockouts title go to Kalani and JC Jane, the tag team titles to the Hardy Boys. I want to see the single male titles go to TNA wrestlers, where now we're going to see TNA wrestlers see that title on TNA television and having those wrestlers wrestle on WWE television holding that title. I kind of wanted to see that. Hopefully in 2026, we see that going forward. Moose has an opportunity to win that North American title, which I'm excited to see because All Legal Ethan Page on December 20th has a chance to win AAA Latin American title. So All Legal Ethan Page in a crazy world might be a triple champion. He might be triple champion. He might be a mixed tag team champion, the Latin American champion, and the North American champion. What a year for All Legal Page if he pulls that out on December 20th. But then he has to finish the year off with a big Moose crossing in front of him. We'll love to see how that goes for Moose and All Legal Page. That's going to be a hell of a match. Here's something that they're teasing for later on the night. In the parking lot, Javon Evans. We know he is uber talented. He knows he has a match on Monday Night Raw coming up against Rayo, part of the Gran Don Americanos. He's also this Saturday has a chance for the lightweight champions for AAA Mexico. He has his first singles world title outside of the elite opportunity there. I know he had the world title last week, but he's going to go for that AAA title. Plus, he's going to be on Monday Night Raw. You saw him on Saturday night's main event being featured. We saw him in Slammiversary taking on Leon Slater, but he's becoming a little impatient. Ricky Saints has gone under his skin. Rightfully so, took an opportunity away. He had the world title. He had Oba Femi beat for a moment there. He was looking forward to beating him and disrupting the whole card on Saturday night's main event, but it just didn't happen for Ricky Saints interfering. But he's showing a little bit of a selfishness and worrying about himself when Leon is trying to say, hey, I got you. Let's concentrate. Help me get this here. We'll get that. We're going to get Ricky Saints. We're going to do this. We got a mission right now. We established a bond, a friendship, and it feels like Javon is not right now focused on that. He's becoming a little impatient. That's the story they're telling right now. Let's see how that plays out in the coming weeks with Javon, Leon Slater, especially when we get to the main event. I'll elaborate on that more. Another match, the second match, we had a match here that I'm going to say something about this match. It had me a little bothered, hot out of the collar when I did the watch along. Hank and Tank versus OTM. And it wasn't because who was wrestling. I was asking this question about Hank and Tank. Hank and Tank, they've been tag team champions, NXT tag team champions. They just came back from Pro Wrestling Noah. I believe they won the tag team titles there. You know, you see them. But I asked this question to the chat, and I asked this, and I don't want to be disrespectful or hurtful with my words. What is the ceiling for Hank and Tank? I watched Hank and Tank, both of them, and I think they're topped out at their ceiling for now. I don't see a different evolution in character or where they go for as singles. I don't see Hank Walker as a singles competitor, the charisma and to be on his own. He's going to be a gullible baby face that, let's face it, to me, he's going to good in ring, but he's going to be a good hand. He's, to me, I feel like a Phineas Godwin. If you remember the Godwins, you know, that look, you know, maybe a slight mid-card run, title run, maybe. And even Hank, you know, and Tank Ledger. I mean, he's got some nice moves, but where do you see? I don't. And as tag teams, they reach their ceiling. They're gonna run them back as number one contenders to tag team champions again. Maybe another tag team title run. I won't mind that, but I thought this was a chance for them to help build OTM. OTM, they haven't been really featured in the world title picture scene. Those two boys, they look like they could go out there, and I compared them to Doom. If you remember WCW Doom, a little Harlem Heat influence there. Even Booker T was mentioning that on the broadcast when I mentioned that comparison. I'm not saying they're completely Stevie Ray and Booker T. But there's similarities, their style, they look, the physicality on these two men. I know Prince has been injured. Lucius has been injured from time to time. Bronco, I believe, also had a little bit of a hiccup. I just wanted to see them go out there and destroy them. I thought this match went a little bit. I thought it went 5 to 6 minutes too long. I thought they could have wrapped it up with some moves where I would have liked OTM to destroy Hank and Tank, but Hank and Tank gets the victory on a surprise roll-up sequence there. We're like, what good did it do? I'm like, I don't now. OTM is you're supposed to make OTM feel undeniably strong and beatable, especially where Dark State, two young talent, has those titles. I would, Hank and Bronco and Lucius to go up against half of the Dark State. We're like, oh damn, those guys are some heavy hitters. That would have been a more of a brutal collision course. Maybe they still get that. Maybe that's something for Stand and Deliver between those groups, and they have time. They have weeks to tell. But you have to protect Bronco and Lucius. The next match that they have to obliterate the tag team. And it sucks because you had that match with Kale Dixon and Finley, and it just I gotta see them built stronger. Bronco Lima. I got to the point was if you're not going to see the value in Bronco and Lucius, and I didn't mean it as a negative thing for them, just release them. Let them go work elsewhere. Let them go where they're going to be utilized and taken serious as a tag team. Let them go work for a TNA, for All Elite Wrestling. Because if you're going to waste your time, I don't want them to end up like Enofe and Malik. I think Enofe and Malik, their talents were wasted. They were a dynamic tag teams together. They remind me of a lot of the New Day. You had the New Day with the tag team titles in NXT run a couple years ago, while Enofe and Malik was there, and you never gave us that tag team with those teams. The athleticism and the match would have been. I would have loved to see them work with the veteran of a Kingston in calling that match, helping put together that match with the coaches in NXT for Malik. For Enofe working that style. I know they had Odyssey Jones at that time before Odyssey got called up with Enofe, and you could have had another version of a New Day. And it's not because they're African Americans. No, they had charisma. They have a charm that the Performance Center loved about those three men, Enofe, Malik, and Odyssey. Odyssey, they saw the value, but again, it didn't work out for him. But I also thought they missed out on Enofe and Malik. And I hope they don't do that in an eerie way and in another way with Bronco and Lucius. Now, I don't know what happens backstage. The coaches, if they're not putting the work in, or their move sets or whatever, if they're not following the moves that were laid out for the match, they forget or not. I don't know that. Only the producers know, and maybe that's why the elevation isn't there for them. But I kind of want to see Lucius and Bronco being showcased as this tough team that goes out there and destroy people. That's just me. I want to see that for them in 2026. Hopefully, they're the ones that dethrone Dark State in the near future. This one here was an in-ring segment that I really enjoyed. Was Ricky Saints calling out Javon Evans, and he had security, but we have the heel promo of Ricky Saints, the arrogance. Ricky Saints giving a call back to his days back in NWA, part of also what got him into All Elite Wrestling. Javon Evans just sneaked into security, and you could see that there is a real negative, or when I mean negative, a blood feud between these two guys where they want to tear each other's head. If you weren't invested in this match and say, oh, Ricky saying Javon coming in and over in that brawl with security, it sold you. At least it got me more invested. I want to see those two in a collision course between Ricky Saints and Javon Evans in the near future. Sign me up. I am ready to go with that one Let's go. I can't wait to see that brawl. Backstage, we saw Ava talking to Soruka, and in comes Ethan Page to interrupt and complaining about the Moose situation that they have in NXT. And of course, Ava signed off, and so does Santino. In comes your United States Women's Champion, Chelsea Green, with her Secret Harvest with Oba Fire, where it's announced by Ava that Chelsea will be defending her Women's United States Championship against Soruka next week. Now, I would have liked Nick Aldis to at least say something about this. Avis just now have control the jurisdiction on a title that's not part of her brand. But I guess that's WWE. Who's going to question the board member's daughter, right? I guess that's what. But LNS is going to be a good matchup. We'll see if Chelsea drops that United States. We have a chance that in the next, by the year end, we can have a new Women's United States Champion in Soruka. She moves on to the main roster, and we might even see Moose capture North American title going forward to close out the year. So that would be something in the next couple of weeks for NXT and TNA and SmackDown going forward. The landscape could change before the year ends on all those three brands. Interesting to see that match here that I really enjoyed. It was Fatal Influence, Fallon Henley and Laney Reed versus Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair. Again, 2026, watch out. I know Shawn Michaels mentioned it, and we've been saying it. We've been giving her flowers for months now. Her name Maddie from South Texas. Ren Sinclair. We all know her by Ren Sinclair in the WWE. She's been a hell of a wrestler. Watching her from Reality of Wrestling from South Texas and working her way. And 2026, we know what she could put in her in ring. I like her gimmick. Her Wednesday's breakdown of NXT. If you watch her on Instagram, very, very fun. She has a Nick factor, and her solid in-ring wrestler. The crowd's starting to get behind her. One of those that people are going to get emotionally invested when they put the Rockets pack on her. I think it's going to resonate, and I think the fans are really going to rally behind her. She had a great showing last year's Deadline. She was a shocker. She was the one. She did Kendall Gray last year, but without getting the final pin to win the whole Iron Survivor last year for Ren. And this year, just to see her in that tag team with Kendall Gray, who won the Iron Survivor, and with JC Jane at ringside. The match was a great match, back and forth. I thought the best Laney Reed is going to get it. I don't know if there's going to be enough time where what's holding Fatal Influence right now back to going to SmackDown is Laney Reed. I think Laney Reed, and even if Jasmine Nix would have re-signed with the company, I don't know if they would have called Fatal Influence up, because I don't think Jasmine Nix was ready either to go to SmackDown. I think Laney Reed is just a little bit ahead of Jasmine Nix in ring. But Jasmine Nix, what calls her attention is her beauty, her looks, So I don't know where, but they did that with Maxine. And look where Maxine has paid off. I'll do my Monday night review shortly. And when I see the growth of Laney Reed in ring, I think Laney Reed is about 6 to 8 months steady in ring to be possibly that breakout wrestler. If they do the breakout tournament for NXT next year, I could see her winning it. Believe it or not, I could see Laney Reed becoming your breakout champion, or opportunity to call her shot at the NXT Women's Champion in a tournament, or even Ren Sinclair. Either one of those two, if they were to do a breakout tournament, I think those two ladies are candidates for breakout wrestlers of NXT next year. And we'll see where that goes. I saw that. I like the way Kendall Gray locks in the cross arm for the submission on Henley for the tap. And you hear Fallon Henley yelling in agony of pain. She sold that submission so well. You could hear her screaming and yelling and submitting. And that's what gave Kendall Gray that aura going into the one-on-one matchup against your NXT Women's Champion, JC Jane, at New Year's Evil. Setting that stage up, getting ready for them, and saying, you know what? Kendall Gray is the Evolve Women's Champion, but the underdog here. And she has a great opportunity where she likes that odds against JC Jane and shock the world and double championship on Tuesday, January 7th for New Year's Evil. So that's going to be a fun one there. Backstage interview segment. This is what I was talking about earlier. Thea Hail celebrating her championship win with Jordan Grace. Blake Monroe demands a rematch and storms off furious. Here's what I like about this. If it was a mistake and, gee, if they were leaving the building, I don't know where they got that report from. They did that segment and they touch all the different bases there. Blake Monroe wants a rematch. She feels a paw, or what she said, a paw or distraught. She's like totally distraught and can't believe it, shock and all. And she's gonna get her rematch. We'll see where it goes in the next 2 weeks for that women's North American title for Thea Hail. Is she's going to get the Tatum Paxley treatment on the short title run, or are we going to get something and have Thea Hail run to the races? We got some locker room tension. We see Izzy Dane. She says she knows where Nico Vance is because she sees the doll on her locker room of Nico. She's going to see where he's at. And then we see Lola Vice fading away in the background where Kalani Jordan is putting her stuff in the locker room, and Kalani gets in Lola Vice's face and it says, "Didn't we throw you out? No, I'm back here." And and it's going to lead into a match. The next feud is Lola versus Kalani Jordan. It's going to be interesting to see if WWE is going to push Lola over Kalani going forward, or is Kalani continue to grow into that heel character. Listen, I think they're going to see what they have in Kalani as a heel, and if she really knocks it out of the park and she becomes this next level heel female that knows how to work and is versatile, we know she's an uber baby face. I mean, it's hard to root against Kalani Jordan with that smiley baby face that she has, but they want to see her other side as a heel. And if that works, and they know that she's multifaceted in working different styles, heel and babyface, this is where they're going to move her. I could see her moving after WrestleMania to the main roster if she hits it out of the park with her character work as a heel. She showed that she was a good knockouts champion, first inaugural North American championship. Kalani is also one of those that's running up the tadpole where there is nothing too much for her in NXT, but that last women's title. I don't think she really needs it. I think they got to see if she could work that heel, not just in the Performance Center, but outside when they travel outside of the Performance Center, when they do certain NXT on the road, either live events, or if they're going to do a Tuesday night special outside of the Performance Center and hear the crowd around them to see if that's resonating, not just in Orlando, but across the country, where for NXT who are watched for Kalani Jordan to take that next step into the main roster, because they could use Kalani Jordan too. You don't want to rush too much to the main roster immediately because you want to leave something to build, and you don't want to overfluctuate the riders because then they'll leave certain people off the roster, and then they need a happy medium, and I think with Kalani, they're doing it correctly. We'll see where it goes there. We get an announcement. The men's speed tournament. We saw Jasper Troy wants competition. Ava announced we're gonna have a men's speed tournament. Another, some people said another tournament for the speed for number one contender for speed. It works for them. It's only 3-minute matches. You get a bunch of people, you could get SmackDown involved, you get TNA wrestlers involved, you get so different. If you could get Evolve into the tournament, involve them in there, and you know what, Jasper Troy at the end, I kind of like it. That's okay with that, and I don't think it's overuse of a tournament. I think it's a proper way of getting people wrestling for that speed. No problem. I'm for it. I'm good with it. I hope we get some different competitors into the speed tournament from TNA as well. Wouldn't mind seeing someone different like a Trey Miguel or even Marlon Reed. Wouldn't even mind. Watch out if Marlon Reed is in the speed tournament here. Keep an eye out if WWE is going to start scouting Marlon Reed. Remember, I believe he's going to sign a short-term deal. He's one of those that are renamed on a short-term deal along with his wife, Killer Kelly, to extend in TNA, possibly one of those 6 to 3 month deals to stay with TNA to see where they go. That's something for WWE to showcase him into the speed tournament. See, I know Killer Kelly been there and done that in the Performance Center. Don't know if WWE will return her back or bring her back to the company, but there is a value in a Marlon Reed in the WWE. His matches and his look, his height and his look is something that WWE could be interested in. Don't be surprised if he's part of the speed tournament and he might win one match in the streets advance and then before tapping out, but they want to see how he works. Bring him in the performance center, lay out the match. Stevie retains the match order and all the bullet points and different things. Keep an eye out for Marlon Reed if WWE has an eye on him, especially if his talent, if his contract is going to expire for TNA in a couple of months, or possibly in the early spring, late winter for Marlon Reed. We got the main event, the fatal four-way, of course. Joe Henry, Leon Slater, Miles Bourne, Dion Lennox alone left Dark State in the back. Match was awesome. And back and forth they go, where all the different spots. Joe Henry, the time I thought Joe Henry was going to be your number one contender, to my surprise and to my joy, Leon Slater becomes your number one contender. I didn't see that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I said it as a hopeful, as a mark, as a fan. I said, man, I would love Leon Slater to win that title, because you open up that New Year's Evil, the first, and you open up 2026 with him up against Oba Femi, and Leon Slater's, you see the X Division champion, you see and people walk to and goes, and then you start promoting January 15th on AMC. You'll see Leon Slater and TNA in their new home at AMC. You could see them. They're going to be live on Thursday Night Impact Zone. I see that as the marketing, the reason why you do collaborations with NXT, with the WWE. It continue to benefits TNA, because you saw them at Saturday Night's Main Event. You see Leon Slater in NXT CW, and then you're gonna see him on New Year's Evil. You're like, man, and you saw Leon Slater on the PLE on Peacock. TNA is getting a lot of great exposure. That's why I say they're having a great year and closeout. Let's say Moose captures the North American title, and let's say the shock of the world where Oba Femi drops the title after Leon Slater becomes your number one contender on New Year's Evil, where you have Oba Femi chasing into AMC for Leon Slater's X Division champion, or even Javon Evans gets a little jealous, and you can move Oba Femi onto the main roster. Challenging the open challenge for Ilya Dragunov on January 2nd after dropping that title to Leon Slater, and Leon with the title, and Javon Evans a little bit jealous, or professional jealousism, that he's got two titles. Why not Leon Slater hold X Division Championship and NXT title, world title, going into AMC, where Javon Evans is chasing at that AMC show? You put the two youngest, best wrestlers in professional wrestling on that card, with Leon Slater defending the NXT world title against Javon Evans, or you could even make him for both. He'll put both titles on the line, where Javon takes on Leon Slater for both those titles. What a way to start your AMC career for TNA, with the attaboy or the boost of NXT WWE. Just thinking, just spitballing, throwing that out there. There's so many realms of possibility. Does it happen? No. Let's just have that conversation, though. Let's indulge that. If they want to do that, where they want to draw as much eyeballs as possible to the product, they could go that route. Everyone's thinking about AJ Styles showing up. I think AJ Styles might show up to that AMC. I don't think it's for Leon Slater. I think it's for Frankie Kazarian. Where does that go for Mike Santana? That's a tough one. I don't know. That's a tough pill to swallow. I could see Frankie and AJ Styles. Maybe AJ Styles distracts or just comes out where Mike takes advantage, and we still have a match between Frankie and AJ Styles. I don't know. That's up to them for creative. I'm just fantasy booking. I just wanted to give you my thoughts here for NXT last night. NXT, the 16th of December. I thought the show, much better show, very good. I love when the TNA incorporation is involved with NXT, and I like when AAA as well gets involved. That cross promotion, it works. It still does a good number. It had me invested. The show was a solid 9 for me. There was nothing there like, it went 2 hours, went really smooth and quick. Even the hiccup with the North American title for the woman, because yes, it might have been a situation momentary of a disconnect, but I think it's going to open up a huge door for Thea Hail going forward. Let me hear your thoughts in the video. Give me your comments. Let me know. Follow us, of course, again. Follow us on the gram. There is our follow our gram, sports_Jedi_. You can follow Rain.Sports Jedi Media, Chris TV as SNJ, and then hey, it's Canary, and of course I got Dan at underscore the 711. Check it out as well, and follow us on X. Absolutely, you can follow us on X as you see there at Dying Breed 18, at Hey It's Canary, at PGA Chris, at Sports Jedi Media, and the Discord channel. Please follow us on Discord. We want to continue to build our community of the Sports Jedi Network and family with all the Latinos in wrestling. We have Discords for different AEW, NXT talk, WWE talk, all that stuff. Please continue to help us grow our community. We want to continue strong and we want to continue to build here in 2026. So without your support, we are nothing. So again, thank you so much here for the NXT review. I am BX Sports Jedi Kev. Don't forget, we will do our Latinos in Wrestling weekly wrap up. But I had to break down this NXT and not wait because there's so much to cover. I just didn't want to forget and bring that essence. So we'll hear from Chris on Saturday. So we'll have a good night, guys. Happy holidays, and we'll see you soon, man. Peace out.
Represento las calles de mi tierra.